UCLA and LSU. So UCLA comes into this one after being blown out against Indiana. Everybody's really low on them. I have them dead last in my power rankings in the Big Ten right now, which is saying something after Purdue did what they did against Notre Dame. However, Indiana, this is a good team. We'll talk more about them a little bit later on. So I can't knock UCLA too much. However, Indiana is not a super talented team. This isn't a team that has wonderful recruiting or fantastic recruiting and has the most talented players in the world. They have some very good players from the G5 that have come up. Curtis Rourke leading that group as the quarterback of that team. However, UCLA does need to get their act together. Losing Chip Kelly, Deshaun Foster seems like he's a little bit in over his head. I've been reading some practice reports from UCLA beat this week, and it sounds like the practices are a bit lethargic and maybe they are not as energetic, which I hate to hear. After you struggle against a team like Indiana, you would hope to kind of, regroup and, get excited, especially for a ranked team like LSU. You're going to see them, but it doesn't seem to be that way right now. And that's a little concerning for me. Andrew, what have been your thoughts on UCLA this year, and touch a little bit on LSU as well?
Yeah, I think, I kind of agree with you. I think UCLA is kind of up against it right now. They're 1-1 after getting thumped by Indiana. They squeaked by Hawaii. And, just thinking about like kind of the mental state of this UCLA team right now, they're up against it right now going into LSU, and then things don't get any easier for them because they have to play Oregon, and then they travel to Penn State. So thinking about this 3-game gauntlet that they have here, I'm sure that's got to be pretty heavy mentally for them. And just looking at just the hard stats, they're pretty far down the list in terms of total team offense and defense in FBS. So there's not like a ton that they can really hang their hat on and say, okay, like we can start like kind of just focusing more on this in our game planning. It just kind of seems like across the board there are opportunities for improvement. And quite frankly, like looking at the two teams that they played so far in Hawaii and Indiana, with respect to Indiana, because I think they're like better than a lot of people, including myself, thought they'd be this year. LSU is just quite frankly a different caliber of opponent, and they're playing really fierce right now after losing that opening game to USC. So their margin of error has shrunk significantly. So they're aware of that and they're playing like it. And then on the LSU side, though, I think that I like Garrett Nussmeier as a quarterback still. I mean, he hasn't been perfect, but he's been pretty good for them, especially in that latest game against South Carolina. They're averaging more than 400 yards per game on offense, and quite frankly, I think more or less is going to happen or more or less of the same is going to happen in this game. I don't see much on the UCLA side to say that they're really going to stop this LSU offense. Where I do think that there is a slight opportunity for UCLA is on the LSU defense. They've been giving up an average of around 27 points per game. And, even though they have been playing some pretty decent competition, that's something that you can look for and say, okay, like, maybe if some things fall our way, we'll be able to score against this team. It's just, we got to hang on for dear life on the defensive side.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, for me, the UCLA offense has to get out there and they have to have, a faster start this game. I believe they've only scored 7 points in the first half so far this year. That's not going to cut it, especially for an Eric Bieniemy offense. Now, you could get into it and say, Eric Bieniemy's offense is confusing and it's difficult for the players. If that's the case, Eric Bieniemy needs to realize that and he needs to start running some simpler stuff for his guys. I think Ethan Garbers, he's an experienced quarterback. We saw what he did in the bowl game last year. That was a cool story. He's definitely a quarterback that I think has some potential this year, but the pieces surrounding him just don't seem to be all that great. Rico Flores Jr. is a good wide receiver. However, the running backs have been nearly non-existent. If you look down at the bottom right-hand corner, Ethan Garbers is the leading rusher for this team. So it's like when your quarterback is the leading rusher, that does not normally bode well for your running backs unless he's just this huge running threat. Ethan Garbers has legs and he can move around, but he's no Lamar Jackson. So he definitely need to be better in that area. They've been sub 4 yards per carry on the season, which is just completely unacceptable to me. I do look for this game to be a bit of an area for them to right the ship on offense because LSU does not have the strongest defense in the world. But I don't see this UCLA defense stopping the LSU offense in what they're able to do. Garrett Nussmeier is coming into his own. He's getting better. First year starter, but he's faced two difficult opponents in USC and South Carolina. So I don't think the UCLA defense will be anything compared to those. I guess USC still remains to be seen. They had a good performance, and they shut out Utah State. So I don't know why I'm questioning them. I think they should be for real, but we'll find out more against Michigan, which we previewed that game last episode. But yeah, so any other keys that you think UCLA needs to really hit on here to win this game, Andrew?
Yeah, I think it's really just starts with Garrett Nussmeier. Like they can't let him get too comfortable in the passing game. So whatever kind of rush that they can get in there to try and disrupt his rhythm, I think will do wonders for them. But even then, I mean, there's too much talent across the LSU side to just rely on that alone. And to that end, I think that their veteran QB Ethan Garbers, like he has to make plays. Is going to be asked to do a lot in this game. You might be able to look at kind of that small sliver of hope with that LSU defense and say, okay, hey Garrett or hey Ethan, go out and win this game. Like go make those plays that we saw at times when he was under the helm of Chip Kelly. And more than anything else, I would just say do everything that they can to win the turnover battle, because that's how a big underdog ends up threatening a heavy favorite. And I think that, that could be like something that they have to just try and maximize on, whether that being trying to confuse the offense with different looks, either running some stunts to try and get to Garrett Nussmeier, whatever they have to do. Like they got to pull all the tricks out of the bag as far as I'm concerned.
I totally agree. I totally agree. Let's get into some score predictions really fast. I'll go first with mine. Andrew, I think this one's going to be 42-21 in LSU's favor. I think UCLA should be able to move the ball better on LSU. I don't know if they're going to have that faster start like we hope for. I hope they do. We need to see at least a touchdown or two in the first half in order for this to happen. And the LSU offense, they just seem too potent to me. They seem too on fire. I think that UCLA's strength is kind of stopping the run right now. They've done a pretty good job of that. However, I do think Garrett Nussmeier is going, if they do take away the run, I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to be able to throw it around. Maybe they get some tip balls. Maybe they get lucky with some turnovers, like you said. But Garbers, I mean, he has to get some help. He's only completed barely over half of his passes right now. Only 2 drops, but still, not a whole lot of help for him. 1 touchdown pass, 3 interceptions, and 4 sacks. If UCLA wants to win this game, they have to do a much better job of protecting Ethan Garbers. They have to do a much better job of run blocking and opening up the holes for the running backs. I don't think it's just the running backs. I actually think TJ Harden and Jalen Berger are pretty good running backs. I don't think they're bad. I just don't think there's been very much running room for them. So if they want to prove me wrong and score more than 21, they're going to have to do some of that stuff. But I think that's going to be my prediction. Andrew, what's your score prediction?
Yeah, so mine is actually pretty similar to yours. I just give just a slight bit more credit to the LSU defense. I've got LSU winning this one 42-17. I think LSU does beat that spread of 23.5.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see. Another big factor is it is home for LSU, right? I mean, that's a huge factor there.
Yeah.
LSU had to travel to Vegas, which was technically a neutral site game, but as we've seen with these neutral site games, they typically tend to be closer to one school than the other, which made it a little bit easier for US.